Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Your Daily Five, presented by StockCharts TV. I'm your host for today's show. My name is Grayson Roze. I'm the Vice President of Operations here at StockCharts.com, as well as the author of Trading for Dummies and Tensile Trading, the 10 Essential Stages of Stock Market Mastery. It is great to be with you for another episode of Your Daily Five. I'm sure you've seen me before, but as you may know, this is one of my favorite shows that we do on StockCharts TV. Such a dynamic look at the markets from a different analyst every day. I'm just a big fan of this show. So it's a pleasure to be back with you today, especially at quite an interesting time for the markets. Obviously, we've seen some wild things, not just in the markets, but in the headlines the last couple of weeks. It's definitely been an interesting one with those 4 down weeks in a row that we had on the some of the major indices. But a nice pop last week. So we're going to dive into the charts here. I've got a couple for you. Looking forward to sharing my take on what's going on. So we're going to start today with the S&P 500. Now, we're looking at a specific view of the S&P 500, something you might not look at too often. This is actually a 1-minute chart of the S&P 500 over a 45-day period. This is something that I look at every weekend. And it's part of my sort of weekly routines, weekly deep dive into the markets and what the major indices are doing. So what we can see here is that there's a key level that I'm watching on the S&P 500 that has been battle tested over the last couple of weeks. Now, that level is around the 3425 point on the S&P 500. As you can see here by that solid horizontal auto support and resistance line that I've drawn across the chart. And by the circles, this is a level that we've been bouncing up against both from the bottom and from the top many times over the last couple of weeks. Now, we did push lower through that sort of in the middle of September, right around the 17th as we kind of fell below that and didn't make our way back up to it. But we're starting to get back there. We're moving up. As you can see here, we're sitting right around 3,400 on the S&P 500. Again, 3,425 is the level that I'm watching in this horizontal line here. So as we make our way back up towards those levels, I'm really curious to see how we hit, if we hit that level, and how we sort of treat it, how the S&P 500 handles this 3425 level. As you can see, again, we have really tested this quite thoroughly many times on the 1-minute chart over the last 45 days. So we are seeing some nice accumulation here. I do like to see that. This is actually a great way to track accumulation distribution campaigns. When you go to the 1-minute chart, it's really tough to hide sort of the big trades, the big money, what the institutional players are doing. So the 1-minute chart is sort of where I go to sniff out where the real buying action is or selling action. If we see the accumulation distribution line, this is the black line here, going down, that means there's a lot of selling in the market. We've seen a change in that though with the accumulation distribution and on balance volume. That's the grayed outline there in the background. Both of those moving higher on the 1-minute chart. That shows me there's nice buying pressure here in this move. And so as we come back up to, again, about that 3425 level, this is a key that I'm watching on the S&P 500 quite closely. Now, we're going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, we looked at the 1-minute chart. We're going to go to actually a different index. This is the Vanguard Total Index, VTI. Now, VTI is interesting because it tracks the total stock market. It's still cap weighted. So like the S&P 500, it's which is obviously a large cap index, it's going to favor those big cap names. But it is also going to bring in some smaller names. They're sort of a piece of the puzzle there. And so I like to look at VTI to get a sense of kind of where the total market is. Again, this is a very broad index actually tracking the total US stock market. So what we can see here on the daily chart, this is a 1-year chart of VTI. What we can see here, obviously the big decline that we had earlier in the year and the recovery. Now we can see though that what we've come back to really on this pullback that we've seen in the last few weeks, we've really come back to that gap support level on VTI here. This horizontal, again, auto support and resistance line is a well-tested zone that we've really just kind of pulled back to. We ran up to that in June of this year, sort of a short-term high. We ran back up to that, bounced off it. We made our way through, tested it a little bit as we ran up to all-time highs. And on this pullback, really what we've done is pulled right back to that level. Now, it's interesting to see how it also coincides with a couple of key moving averages that I'm watching. Plus, one other indicator that we're very, very excited to now have on StockCharts in ACP. By the way, you are looking at StockCharts ACP. This is our new interactive advanced charting platform. If you haven't gone over to check out StockCharts ACP, definitely go do that. In the format that we have here for your daily 5, I can't show you all the interactive features because this is just a screenshot of the platform. But so much to play with there. You can drag your indicators around the chart, zoom in, zoom out, move through time dynamically. Very, very cool stuff in StockCharts ACP. Anyways, we've added the anchored VWAP indicator to StockCharts ACP. So I've thrown one of those on from that sort of interim high that we hit again in June. Now, again, that coincides with this support and resistance line that we're seeing coming across the chart. And what's interesting to me with the anchored VWAP from that level is that you can see we never actually broke it on a closing basis. We went right down to it, bounced on the next day, bounced on the next day again, and we've since rocketed higher from sort of right along that anchored VWAP level. Now, again, we've come down on an intraday basis right to that sort of support and resistance level that I'm watching pretty closely, or was watching pretty closely. But again, on a closing basis, we never actually broke that anchored VWAP from the June sort of interim high, which is really interesting. Now, I've also got the 100-day moving average on here, which is the orange line. That's a level that I like to watch on my charts quite closely. And it's interesting that we came close to hitting it on an intraday level, intraday basis, but we didn't actually get there. So that 100-day holding was a really good sign for me to see. Now we are back above the 50-day on VTI. You can see that's the red line here. And again, we're trading nicely above the 50-day, which is good to see. Now, finally, this chart that I have down here below, the indicator panel that I have down here below, is the distance from the simple 200-day moving average. This is actually part of our advanced indicator pack plugin that you can install right in StockCharts ACP. It gives you a whole bunch of additional indicators. A very, very cool feature for StockCharts members. Definitely go check that out. But what you can see here is how far it's measuring how far are we away from the simple 200-day moving average. And what you can see is that when we hit that peak here in early September, we were very, very extended off the 200-day at levels that we don't see very often. Now we've really kind of pulled back to healthier levels. And so, yes, this was a scary pullback, a couple of weeks in a row, moving to the downside. But in a lot of ways, this is a healthy reset, testing some key levels, testing that anchored VWAP level. So I'm actually pretty happy to see the action here as we've come down and now bounced higher. Again, trading above the 50. I'm actually pretty happy to see that. So interesting to watch here on VTI. Now, if you subscribe to our Chart Watchers newsletter, you actually might have seen a version of this chart, which I featured in the newsletter over the weekend. So definitely go subscribe to our Chart Watchers newsletter as well. It's basically at the bottom of every StockCharts page. There's a little box there you can subscribe. Totally free. You get content from John Murphy, David Keller, Martin Pring, myself, lots and lots of analysts on StockCharts every weekend. And it's a good way to keep in touch with us, keep up to date with things that are happening around the site and new additions, that kind of thing. So anyways, go get this chart. It's actually in the last Chart Watchers newsletter. You can get a link directly to it. So now from there, I got to move into some stocks because I am a stock picker at heart. I love picking stocks. And so one of the things that I do actually every weekend on Twitter, if you go follow me on Twitter at Grayson Roze, I put up this list that I call 10 I'm stocking. It's 10 picks for the week, 10 charts that are setting up really nicely, moving up to key levels, generally breaking out to new 52-week highs. That's something that I look for quite a lot. So you'll see a lot of these names breaking out to new 52-week highs. So this is, again, something that I put out every Sunday on Twitter, my 10 I'm stocking list. So go follow me there. You can get that list every weekend if you're on Twitter. But I got a couple of picks for you from this past weekend, yesterday, this past weekend's 10 I'm stocking list. So we're going to dive into those really quick. The first up is Appian. This is a software play. And what I'm looking at here is a 2-year chart showing that this level kind of in the mid 60s for Appian has been very, very well tested. We've hit that multiple times over the last couple of years. Now starting to break through it. Again, nice outperformance, beautiful relative strength here. I love to see that. great accumulation. That's what I'm looking for, is buying pressure coming into the stock. So when I see this nice accumulation distribution line moving higher, that is fantastic. And on the scooter, that's the StockCharts technical rank, we're up here in the 90s, which is a great, great score. Ultimately, what we have here is a strong stock moving higher, breaking out to new 52-week highs. I love the price action on Appian. Again, this is an auto support and resistance line. We're breaking above that out to new 52-week highs. Just a great, great move on Appian. So I love the setup here. Another one that is on my list is actually Snapchat. It's not one that I've watched very closely for the last couple of years, but doing some interesting things on the price chart here. What we can see is that it actually broke out above its sort of early 2020 highs, broke out above those levels again after the recovery from the sell-off that we saw earlier this year, broke out. And now it's actually been consolidating for the last couple of months, really the last 2-3 months. What we can see here, though, is testing the top of that consolidation range, starting to break out higher. And again, on beautiful relative strength, nice outperformance. This is, by the way, Snapchat versus VTI, this top panel measures. How is the stock doing relative to the total market? So if we see a stock that's outperforming the total market, we know this line is moving higher. That's a stock that we know is going to be strong. So I love to see this beautiful relative strength here from Snap. Again, nice accumulation. That is great to see. And on the scooter, we have another scooter in the mid 90s. The StockCharts technical rank is high. That is a great sign for Snap. So, a little bit above a standard breakout to new 52-week highs, but we're sort of breaking out again after this consolidation here that we've seen over the last couple of months. So I love the action that I'm seeing in Snap, especially on that nice accumulation and the beautiful relative strength. That's just a great move there. Finally, Toll Brothers, similar story here. What we have is great relative strength. I love to see the outperformance here on Toll Brothers, leading higher, actually outperforming VTI. That is fantastic. And again, nice accumulation. I love to see that. Scooter in the mid 90s. Very similar stories across all three of these stocks. But again, breaking out to new 52-week highs in a different group here, home construction. So this is an interesting one that I am watching pretty closely. Now, I hope you have enjoyed everything that we've done here today. Hope it's been fun for you. I've had a blast sharing these thoughts on the market with you. If you want to stay in touch, I'd love to keep in touch with you. You can follow me on Twitter, like I mentioned before, at Grayson Roze, or follow me on my personal website, Stock Market Mastery. You can visit us at stockmarketmastery.com. Of course, be sure to check out either of my books, Trading for Dummies or Tensile Trading, the 10 Essential Stages of Stock Market Mastery. Thank you so much for tuning in today. It has been a blast to host you, and I will see you back here very soon for another edition of Your Daily 5. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Talk to you soon. Chart on. Hey, Grayson Roze here with StockCharts. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, consider giving it a like down below, maybe leave us a comment, and if you're new to the channel, you can subscribe at the link up above. We're gonna bring you daily content from an incredible collection of technical analysts and financial experts.